Hey everybody, welcome back to Open 25.1. It's been a full year since we've gotten a chance to work out, film it, review it, provide some analysis and tips. Workout just got released yesterday. Watched some athletes do it yesterday evening. Chelsea and I came in this morning to knock it out. It's a fun one. What is 25.1?
25.1 is a 15-minute AMRAP. So it's been a while since we had an AMRAP. So you have to work the full 15 minutes. Oof. And it is an ascending ladder for two of the movements, and then one of the movements stays the same. It starts with burpees over the dumbbell. It starts at 3, and then it goes into 3 hang clean and jerks with that dumbbell. And that number is going to go up by 3 each round. And then in between each round, you're going to hit 30 feet of walking lunge steps.
Yep. So we're going to watch it back with you and give you some of our feedback, some of our thoughts and insights into what we were thinking it was going to happen, what actually happened, and maybe some ways that you all can get the best possible score if you're hitting that workout today or tomorrow. So as we're looking at this workout, you can see we've got a nice little setup here. Chelsea's going with the clean lane. I've got chalk marks all over the place. So let's talk about setup first here. What were some thoughts or things that you were thinking about when you were looking at just the setup of your space?
So first thing is just establishing how many steps it's going to be for you to do these lunges. Because for me, if I don't put thought into it, it'll take me 6 steps in between. But if I think about it, I can do it in 5 steps, which is kind of nice. So establish how many steps you have. And then next, where you're going to situate that dumbbell so that the transition is going to be as easy as possible.
Yeah, and so what you'll notice here as we get going, this first round is 3, 3, and then the lunges. I've got some chalk marks. I saw some other folks doing this, and what I tried to do for that is I knew that later on in this workout, the burpees were going to get pretty gross, and whenever things get really tough physically, it's nice to take as much mental strain out of your workout as possible. So for me, putting those chalk marks down was my target of don't worry about anything else, just hit your hands in those chalk marks and jump your feet back as fast as you could. I was actually surprised at how easy that made my reps. So every rep felt like the exact same. So I had a little chalk mark where I put my dumbbell down every time. I had those chalk marks for my hands, and I situated those marks in front of that dumbbell. It's a little bit tough to see from this angle, but because my hands were in front of the dumbbell, I only had to step up kind of halfway, and my feet were in line with the dumbbell, making it really easy to jump over. So those are some little things that you can think about to get yourself set up for success here. So your feet are in line with the dumbbell. It's easy to jump over. You know where your hands are going, and then it can get you into that next rep pretty quickly.
I will say that line was a little bit distracting because I didn't have the marks on the ground. So I would put my hands behind the line and then I would have to adjust and pull my feet up higher. So I did have to adjust like the first couple of reps each round. So yes, the chalk marks would have been a little helpful in knowing where to put my hands because the tape kept distracting me.
And as CrossFitters, we love chalk. So the
Yeah.
more you can use it, the better. And this is the type of workout where you don't really need much chalk on your hands once you get going. So we do know that that can be one of those moments where you try and take a rest break or try and catch a little bit of air. But we encourage you in this workout, just keep moving. There's not really a need to take some breaks here as you're getting into it. So we're already through the round of 6 and we're a minute and 50 in here. These first couple rounds can feel like you are flying. It can be a little bit of a trap.
I just get back to that, but I take a second to like line my foot up really good with the line, just so I know I'm starting it correctly. Judges here, work out everybody else, but just so I know I'm not nowhere to myself. It also gives me that second to take a breath and concentrate on something and get set before I go to slow myself down a little bit.
Yep. Do you have a way that you think about doing your burpees? Because it's one of those movements where a lot of people can get frustrated or get a little bit upset about because they're just really challenging, but there actually is some skill and technique to them. So is there anything you think about with your burpees?
Yeah, keeping my core nice and tight. Because you want to think about like the front side of your body is just like a piece of plywood, right? It's not going to mush into the ground or anything. It's going to tap and bounce right off the ground. One thing that protects the lower back, which is super helpful when we're working with that dumbbell as well, and it helps you protect your breath. If you are soft in the middle and you hit the ground, you're going to lose all that air. So when you stay a little tighter, you're protecting the lungs and the belly a bit more, and you can just kind of bounce off the ground and keep going.
Yeah. And as I'm finishing up the lunges here in this round, I'll tell you a little bit about the way I think about burpees. And having gone down to the Training Think Tank camp, so shout out to them. We did an entire session on burpees, which was actually really helpful. So one of the things I think about, hands go first, and then it's how fast can you get your body to the ground. So flopping or jumping back is helpful. And if you look, I'm essentially doing like a knee push up each time. What that does is it takes some of the stress off of that push up. Most of us, if we do knee push ups, can do bigger sets, more work there. It also gives you this kind of pause of just a pop off the floor, catch your breath for just a moment in that push up position, get your footwork right, and it just allows you to stay really stable, especially in a workout like this where you're probably going to get 70 to 100 plus burpees.
Yeah.
Having an efficient technique and just consistent movement here is going to be helpful. And then for me, the other thing, I try and step up with the outside foot. The inside foot ends right next to the dumbbell, and it makes it easy to jump over. So you don't have any of those wasted steps where all of a sudden your feet are behind the dumbbell, in front of the dumbbell, too far away, and you're kind of shuffling your feet and then jumping. So just little tiny things that can help you be a little bit more efficient in the technique.
Yeah, I've had a lot of questions from athletes already, kind of saying like, "Hey, what do I do with this foot and that foot and all that?" And this is one of those workouts where like we don't want to get too caught up in the nuances of what our feet are doing. To let it do what it naturally wants to do is probably the best, unless you practice with your feet in class all the time. Don't make today or tomorrow be the first time you decide I'm going to pay attention to my feet on burpees, because it's just going to slow you down. And it might be a little lopsided after the workout, but we'll show you some good stretches to fix that.
One of the things I do appreciate about here is our quality of movement on these clean and jerks. There is great
Oh, don't say
extension
that.
of
It's
the
probably not going to look good after
elbows.
this.
It's funny because you've already started to see some videos circulating around some of the athletes who, when they're trying to lock out at the top, they have a soft elbow.
Mhm.
So, one of those things for all the judges and coaches out there, try and really encourage those athletes to drive the dumbbell up, get that shoulder extended, get those elbows extended. That's going to be really helpful to make sure those reps are nice and clean.
You'll notice I'm wiping off a whiteboard because I do not trust myself to remember which round I'm on. It's a lot of counting.
Shout out to Chris for coming out and
Yeah,
counting as well, because I thought this would be a workout like I could figure out and count, but all of a sudden I'd be in the round of 12 or 15 and I'd be like, I don't remember how many reps I've done. So
yeah.
this is one of those ones where it is certainly helpful to have that judge who can count for you. That way you can kind of just mentally check out of how many reps you're doing, just kind of fall into the rhythm of the movement, and then they'll tell you five left, three left, etc.
Yeah.
So we're only 5-ish minutes into this workout. I think we're probably in the round of like 12, I'm guessing at this stage. And this is where you start to notice some of that fatigue sets in the shoulders, breathing rate is a little bit higher. So this is where you're like, wow, I'm only 5 minutes in. I have 10 more minutes to go. And when you get to that point in a workout, what are some of the things you like to either tell yourself, mental games or tricks to keep you invested for another 10 minutes?
On a workout like this, I kind of already established in my brain that I was going to need some positive reinforcing. Sometimes I'll get a little negative and be like, "Hey, what are you doing? Get your life back together." But this time I was like, "Hey, you've done a lot of work so far. Let's keep doing that." And I had picked a pretty good pace, so I reminded myself that I did pick a good pace, and I just kind of stuck with that, and just with the idea of like any work that we get done today is going to be good work.
Yep,
What
exactly.
about you?
At this stage in the game, I was thinking in my head, there's a chance you're probably going to get into that like round of 24. So my hope at this stage was I wanted to feel like I was breathing heavy, but like I could keep going at this pace for a long time.
Yeah,
And thankfully, I felt like I was at that. I also tried to think about the clean and jerks as semi of an opportunity to rest there. Same thing with the lunges, like trying to move a little bit more slowly, a little bit more deliberately, because that's really the only chance you get to breathe where you're not hinging or pushing or pulling or doing something. So at this stage in the workout, it was kind of like, all right, seems like you're on pace, you're breathing okay, reps are still feeling pretty solid here.
yeah. The burpee pace I try to keep the same. I definitely do go into more of a swing setting with that dumbbell. I'm trying to see how low it's getting now because I'm like, oh, it's getting a little low. Just that's where my pace I definitely decreased a little bit just so I could hold on to it longer because I knew if I kept the same pace I was going to have to put it down and I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that. I'd rather hold on to it. And definitely taking care with those lunges to make sure it only took 5 steps and that they counted.
Yep. And on the clean and jerk, there is some technique and some different options there. One is how you're going to get that dumbbell from the shoulder to overhead. In this particular workout, when I got the dumbbell up to my shoulder, I thought about catching or receiving that dumbbell in the dip already so I could immediately go up and overhead with the dumbbell. So that would be something we encourage you to try when you're going from the hang, receive that dumbbell in the dip. and allows you to go right overhead versus kind of fumbling with it at your shoulder.
Yeah.
And then for me, the other thing I thought about here was receiving that dumbbell overhead in a jerk, just to give a little stress off my shoulder, off my legs. So you'll notice I receive it with those bent knees, and then make sure you lock those knees out before you bring that dumbbell down. So I'm a little bit more deliberate because I was trying to breathe and wanted these reps to be solid reps here. And then I decided to go with the alternating because I thought that was going to be the best for just allowing me to breathe, slow it down a little bit, and kind of give an even distribution of work for my shoulders. And I feel very comfortable with the alternating and switching that in air.
Yeah, for me, I went threes until the 12s. So the round of 15, I started to do alternating, just to see what it was like, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I noticed within the round of 12, I was twisting too much and I was loading my lower back more than I wanted to by holding on to it longer. So I decided switching was going to be that better option from there.
I do notice with you too, you kind of almost turn in a little bit. You get that elbow really
Tight to the
tight
body.
to the body underneath. What's kind of the rationale for that?
So that is bad shoulders.
Okay.
So I got a torn labrum in one of my shoulders, and my arms are just ridiculously long too. So I know when I keep it in a little tighter, I can save it a little bit more,
Yep.
and then it doesn't fly out to the side as
Yeah,
much.
it ends in a really nice stacked position overhead, which, especially with this type of movement, when athletes get fatigued shoulders or get tired, they can get a little lazy. That dumbbell does kind of get away from the body, and it can be hard to lock it out, or you feel like you're doing extra work
Yeah,
once you start to try and get that dumbbell overhead.
I don't know if these are reps. I would have to leave that up to you. I'm really skating it with the how low that dumbbell's going.
Oh, because it's going almost below
Yeah,
the knees there.
because I got
I
real
think
long
it's
fingers.
anywhere. I'd have to double check. I
Yeah,
thought it was anywhere below the hips, but I don't know if you could.
we're gonna count it for now.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but yeah, that is something to keep an eye on if you are someone who does like to get in more of a hinge. You got to stay a little more upright in this
Yep.
one to make sure that that dumbbell doesn't go below the hips or the knees. Sorry.
Yeah. And so we got a lot of athletes out there, different levels, fitness levels, skill levels. This one is very accessible. So I
Yeah.
give kudos to CrossFit for the accessibility of it. For affiliate owners, it's pretty easy to set up. You just need two 15-foot lines and then you need a dumbbell. So when athletes are thinking about the division to go with here, I've already had some questions about it. Do you think I should try RX? Do you think I should do intermediate? Maybe a 50 or a 35-pound dumbbell isn't something they typically use in a class environment, but with it being the open and people striving for challenging themselves, any thoughts on that of what you might want to try or encourage athletes to do in this workout?
If the dumbbell is the only thing holding you back, then I would say go for that heavier one.
Mhm.
But if it's the dumbbell and you hate burpees with a dying passion and you know that they're going to be so slow, then don't go for the heavier dumbbell, right?
Yeah.
Let's go for the moderate dumbbell or the scaled dumbbell so that we can really stay fast on those burpees. Don't use the dumbbell weight as an excuse to go slow on your burpees.
Yeah.
I see you. I
And
know who you are.
And I will say too, you'll notice Chelsea and I are hanging on for these dumbbells. I feel pretty comfortable. I think you
Yeah.
do as well with the dumbbell. It is okay to break that dumbbell and do sets of 6, 8, whatever it is. Set that dumbbell down, take a couple breaths, pick it back up, and keep going into it. So don't feel like you have to go unbroken on this dumbbell to get the best score you can.
And yeah, we've talked about this a lot leading up to it. Short sets, but short rest, right? We don't want to be doing big chunks of work, almost finishing, and then resting for 2 minutes. That's not going to be helpful there. We want to make sure that our rest is nice and sweet and quick, and we move on to the next thing.
Yeah. And when we're starting to think about strategy for this workout, we can give you our best ideas and tips, but it's great to think for yourself and also plan out. And I was just having a great conversation with a coach, and we were talking about how you help athletes strategize. And his big thing was the number one thing you want to focus on is what is the limiter for you in that workout and strategize around the limiter. So, just like we highlighted, if the limiter for you is the dumbbell, then you want to go in with a plan of I'm going to do sets of 4 or 6, and I'm going to put the dumbbell down and break and take 3 breaths and pick it back up and go.
Yeah.
If you know the limiter is going to be the burpees, then you're going to want to make a strategy around what's the cadence of my reps. Maybe it's 1 rep every 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, and I'm going to try and hold to that so I can keep going throughout this workout. So think for you what the limiter for you is, whether it's the dumbbell, whether it's the burpees, whether it's just the pace and the length of the workout, and create a strategy around that. So there's a lot of great insights out there from a lot of great programming and different camps. So those are super helpful. And then I think for most folks working individually with their coach, figuring out their own personal strategy can be helpful. So we're coming into the final 2 minutes of the workout here. So you'll hear a lot of coaches talk about the idea of, hey, can you give a little kick? Can you pick up the cadence a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm trying, I think, to go a little bit faster here. I think I'm realizing like this is the last time I'm going to have to do burpees. So it's
Yeah.
like this is my last set. If I can get through this, that'll be helpful. Any thoughts from you on the last 2 minutes here or what you're focusing on?
Um, it was just move
Yeah.
and keep going. There wasn't too much going on. I didn't really change the pace. I was in that no man's land where I didn't know how long it was going to take me to finish these reps. I think I finished at 23, not 24, so that's a little frustrating. Um, but yeah, I was kind of paying attention to what you were doing. And at this point, especially, I give you a little pick it up because you stood
Yeah.
there for so long.
6 seconds.
that,
Yeah,
that was
that was a good that was a good 8 seconds, which in all actuality you'll see here could be the difference in a lunge. So
yeah.
that's me not wanting to.
I
pick up
did
the-
2 burpees while you were standing there
Yeah.
and picked up my head and yelled at you.
I know.
I was like, he needs to go.
So now we're in the final stretch here, and it's a matter of just trying to hang on and finish
Yeah.
whatever reps you can in this moment. And even in these moments when you start to get close to that finish line, still trying to make sure those reps look nice and clean. I know when we start getting faster with our movement, we can do things like bring the dumbbell down before we're extended.
Yep.
We can get lazy with our burpees and kick the dumbbell or not get our chest down to the floor, whatever it might be. So trying to finish strong is going to be helpful here. And this is, I think, the joy of doing the workout with a group, with a class. You'll have, a variety of other athletes pushing it here at the end. A lot of people cheering you on, which can take you through to that finish line.
Yeah, it was definitely the cheering in my head, but also like the math of like, okay, I've got this much time and this many burpees and I'm still trying to go fast. And I was like, it's gonna be tight. So we'll see where this clock ends and where I end.
Yeah.
Because you think you're going fast and then you're like, I'm not really moving that fast.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Oh,
23.
23. Yeah. So recovery positions here. So having done the workout now,
Yeah.
what are some of your thoughts on warming up and getting prepped for it? Because sometimes when
Yeah.
we see these longer workouts, they can be like, all right, it's simple. It's just burpees and lunges. Like, is there a lot we can do to warm ourselves up to put ourselves in a successful position?
Yeah. So taking the shoulders through a full range of motion is going to be great. And the hips and shoulders through a full range of motion to open them up. Then we want to activate as much as we can. So push-ups, band work, anything like that on the shoulders. And then with those hips, getting in some monster walks, making sure the adductors and the abductors are ready to roll. And then the lower back.
Yeah. I thought about that. The two things that really got fired up for me were my feet, actually.
Oh,
So
I know, yeah.
trying to stretch out and take your feet through some good work, whether it's lacrosse ball with the sock on or just working on really flexing and getting into that foot. And then lower back as well, because it's a lot of hinging with the burpees, a lot of hinging with the dumbbell. Your back is going to be doing a lot of opening and closing.
Yeah.
And for some folks, the burpee, trying to get those legs up, your hips get into some different types of positions. So certainly work on opening up your back, work on the feet, and then make sure we feel really good about getting into that good push-up position, make sure we get into that really good overhead position there.
Yeah.
So 25.1 in the books. We're excited for this one. We're excited for our community to tackle this thing on Saturday morning. Good luck to all of you out there. We look forward to seeing you on the leaderboard, and we'll see you for 25.2 next weekend.
Bye.